She smiled the way people do when they remember something they shouldn't. Small, almost apologetic, and gone before you can name it. I hadn't seen her in years. Mrs. Callahan. Or just Elaine now, as she told me at the door, brushing her hair back like the word made her suddenly aware of her own name. I was only supposed to drop off a package that got delivered to the wrong address. That was all. But she was standing there barefoot, in a soft gray sweater that hung loose around her shoulders, and for a moment, I forgot how to speak. "Come in, it's cold out," she said, stepping aside. The house smelled like coffee and something faintly floral, jasmine maybe. I followed her inside, pretending not to notice how quiet it was. No TV. No music. Just the hum of the heater and the low sound of her footsteps across the wooden floor. She poured me a cup before I could refuse. Her fingers brushed mine as she handed it over, and I think she noticed how my hand froze for just a second longer than it should have. "You're not that little boy anymore," she said then, almost laughing, almost whispering it. The line landed somewhere deep, too heavy for small talk. She tried to cover it with another sip of coffee, but her voice had already given her away. I sat down across from her. She moved like someone used to being watched but tired of it. Every motion was careful, even the way she tucked her knee under the chair. Her confidence wasn't loud. It was quiet, like she didn't owe anyone an explanation for the way she carried herself. "You still live next door?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Back from school for a while." She nodded. "You were always polite. Your mom used to brag about that." "I was mostly afraid of you," I said before I could stop myself. She raised an eyebrow. "Afraid of me?" I smiled into my cup. "You had that look, like you could see right through people." Her eyes softened then. Not in pity, more like she was remembering something. "Maybe I just noticed too much. It's not always a gift." There was a small silence between us. She stared at the steam rising from her cup, and I found myself tracing the faint lines at the corner of her mouth, the slight tremor in her fingers as she brushed her hair back again. Everything about her felt contained, like a song playing too quietly to hear, but impossible to ignore. Outside, wind rattled the window. She shivered slightly. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, smiling again, but it didn't reach her eyes this time. "Just colder in this house than I remember." "I could fix that," I said, not thinking, words slipping out before reason caught up. Her gaze lifted, and for a heartbeat we just looked at each other. Long enough for something unsaid to take root between us. Not wrong, not right, just there. Then she stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "I should." She stopped, glanced toward the hallway, then back at me. The air shifted. The house felt smaller. "Sorry," she murmured, almost to herself. "I just remembered I left the kettle on." But the kettle wasn't on. She turned away before I could answer, leaving me at the table with 2 half-drunk cups of coffee and the faint trace of jasmine in the air. And that was the first moment I realized. She'd noticed me too. It was supposed to end with coffee. But it didn't. A few days later, I found myself outside her house again, pretending to check the mailbox, pretending I didn't hope to see her. And she did see me through the kitchen window. She waved, half-smile, eyes tired but kind. Then she opened the door like she'd already decided I should come in. "I still owe you for that package," she said. "Stay a minute." She looked softer in daylight. Her sweater sleeves pushed up, faint smudge of flour on her wrist. The smell of something baking filled the room, lemon, maybe. The same quietness hung in the air, but it felt different this time, like the silence itself was watching us. "Work's been too much," she said, turning away. "Emails, students, meetings, the usual." I didn't know she taught. "High school?" I asked. "Literature. 11 years now." She laughed under her breath. "Apparently, I'm the cool teacher," which is code for unmarried and not terrifying. She said it lightly, but the way she looked down after told another story. The ring mark on her finger, pale, almost gone, caught the light. I shouldn't have noticed, but I did. "What about you?" she asked. "I'm figuring things out," I said. "Feels like everyone my age is supposed to have their life sorted already." Her eyes lifted. No one does. Some of us just get better at pretending. The oven beeped. She turned, bending slightly to pull out a tray, and I looked away. Too late. She caught me. No accusation in her gaze, only the faintest curve at the corner of her lips, like she understood something I didn't want to admit. You always were observant, she said softly. The word always did something to me. It pulled the years closer. All the times I'd seen her in the driveway, watering plants, waving to my parents, existing in the background of my childhood. Now she was right in front of me, the same woman but not the same at all. She set the tray down between us. Lemon bread, steam rising. Try it, she said. When I reached for a slice, her hand brushed mine again. Not by accident this time. It stayed there for half a second too long. Just enough. Neither of us said anything. I could feel her pulse under her skin, quick, almost hidden. Then she withdrew, pretending to adjust her sleeve, eyes on the floor. This is strange, isn't it? She said quietly. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say it felt inevitable, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I nodded once. Yeah, a little. We stood there, not moving, not looking away until the clock broke the silence. Then she smiled, faint and complicated. You should come by sometime when it's not about packages. Her voice was calm, but her hand trembled slightly as she picked up her cup. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which of us was crossing the line, or if we already had. Rain started in the afternoon, slow, then relentless. By evening, the streets blurred under the downpour. I was walking home when I saw her on the porch, struggling with the umbrella that had folded in on itself like a broken wing. You'll catch pneumonia, I said, stepping closer. She turned, hair damp, laughing under her breath. You sound like my mother. Then I should definitely stop talking, I said, taking the umbrella from her hands. Our fingers met, wet, cold, and neither of us let go right away. She looked up at me, water collecting in her lashes. Come in, she said finally. You're already soaked. Inside, the house felt dim, warmer somehow. The lights were low, and her sweater clung a little from the rain. She handed me a towel, then hesitated when our hands brushed again. I didn't think you'd be out in this weather, she said. Didn't think you'd be either. Her lips pressed together. Not quite a smile, more like she was fighting one. I needed air. She sat on the edge of the couch, the kind of posture that looked like she might get up at any moment but didn't. I stood there, towel half forgotten, watching her trace the rim of her mug with one finger. I keep telling myself this is harmless, she said softly, not looking at me. What is? This? She whispered. You, coming by. Me not stopping it. My throat tightened. Do you want me to stop? Her silence said everything. Then a sound. The sharp buzz of her phone lighting up the table. We both jumped slightly. A name flashed across the screen. Ben, principal. She grabbed it fast, thumb hovering, face unreadable. It's nothing, she murmured, turning the phone over, but her hands shook a little. Elaine. Don't, she said. Not right now. The air between us thickened. I took a step closer. She didn't move back. The smell of rain clung to her hair, and for a moment, all I could think about was how close her mouth was to mine. You should dry off, she said finally, voice quieter now. There's a blanket on the chair. I didn't move. You're shaking. So are you, she whispered. That was the moment, the almost. The room held its breath with us. My hand lifted, half an inch from her face, before she turned her head slightly, just enough to stop it from happening. Her eyes stayed closed. You have no idea what you're doing, she said, and the tremor in her voice wasn't anger. Then tell me. I can't. Outside, thunder cracked, close enough to rattle the window. She opened her eyes then, wide, uncertain, searching mine for something she didn't want to find. We stood there until the storm swallowed the silence. When she finally stepped back, her breath brushed my cheek. Go home, she said. Please. But she didn't move until I did. And when I left, I could still feel her warmth in the air. The kind that doesn't fade, even after the door closes, that I didn't see her for a week. No texts. No quiet waves through the window. Just distance, the kind that doesn't happen by accident. I told myself it didn't matter, but I kept glancing at her house anyway. The faint glow behind the curtains, the shape of her silhouette passing now and then. On the 7th night, she called. "Can you come by?" Her voice was small, unsteady. That was new. When I got there, she didn't bother with excuses. The door was already open. "Sorry," she said, rubbing her arms like she was cold. "The heater's acting up again." But the air inside wasn't cold. It was heavy with everything we hadn't said. "You've been avoiding me," I said. She didn't deny it. "I thought it would help." "Has it?" Her eyes flicked toward me, then away. "No," I stepped closer. She stayed still. Rain whispered against the windows again. Always rain. Like the world couldn't decide to stop reminding us of that night. "I tried," she said, voice breaking just a little. "I told myself this was wrong, that people talk, that I should know better. And now, She looked up, and something raw showed in her face. "Now I just want you to stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you mean it." The words hit hard. I laughed under my breath. Not because it was funny, but because there was nothing else left to do. "I do mean it." She shook her head, hair falling into her face. I reached up before I could stop myself and brushed it back. Slow, gentle, like the movement itself was dangerous. She froze. "You can't," she started. But her voice faded when my hand lingered against her cheek. Her skin was warm. Her breathing changed, uneven now, shallow. "You keep saying I shouldn't be here," I said quietly. "But you called me." Her eyes closed. "I know." She stepped closer, almost leaning into me before catching herself. That flicker of restraint that had held for too long. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "Neither is pretending it doesn't matter." She looked at me then. Really looked. Eyes bright, hands trembling, caught between reason and something older, stronger. "You're just a kid," she said. But it didn't sound like she believed it. "Do I feel like one right now?" Silence. Her hand lifted, touched the edge of my jaw, hesitated, but didn't pull away. "Don't make me choose," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to. You are, just by being here." The air between us thinned, heartbeat to heartbeat. And then a sound. The creak of a door somewhere deeper in the house. We both froze, breath held. "Elaine?" A voice called faintly, female, older. Her eyes went wide. "My sister," she mouthed. I took a step back, but her hand caught mine before I could move farther. "Don't go," she whispered, panic flickering in her eyes. The footsteps came closer, and that's where everything hung. Her hand gripping mine, her lips inches away. The air thick with the thing we both knew was about to break. Her sister's visit was short. Polite laughter, tea that went cold between them, a quick hug at the door. I stayed hidden in the back room, barely breathing until the sound of the car faded down the street. When I stepped out, Elaine was standing by the sink, hands braced on the counter, shoulders tense. She didn't turn when she spoke. "You shouldn't have stayed. You asked me to." She finally looked over her shoulder. "I didn't mean it." "Then why?" "Because I didn't want her to see you." Something in her voice cracked on "see you." I took a step closer. "You're shaking." She exhaled hard, almost a laugh. "You have no idea what she'd say if she found out. About us." "There isn't a news," she snapped, then softened instantly, like she hated herself for saying it. "There can't be." I let the silence sit there, heavy as the rain starting up again outside. Then, quieter, I said, "You're lying." Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp, almost pleading. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "See through me." I walked to the table where her phone still lay face down. The screen lit up suddenly, a message preview flashing before it dimmed again. Just one line, from a name I didn't recognize. "Are you still thinking about that night?" Elaine's whole body stiffened. I didn't say anything, but she knew I'd read it. "It's not," she started, then stopped. "Who?" She turned fully now, voice low. Someone from before. It doesn't matter. But her eyes betrayed her, that flicker of shame, of a memory she couldn't quite bury. It matters to me, I said. You don't get to be jealous, she shot back. You don't know what it's like to be wanted for the wrong reasons. The room went still, then softer. I was married to someone who looked at me the way you do, until he stopped. And when he stopped, I forgot what it felt like to be seen. Her confession landed like a bruise. I didn't know whether to move toward her or stay where I was. She looked at me. Eyes red-rimmed, mouth trembling just slightly. That's what this is, isn't it? You see me, and I forget what's real. I stepped forward. You think this isn't real? Her breath caught. That's what scares me. She turned, brushing past me on her way to the couch. Her shoulder grazed my chest, warm, electric, enough to make me forget the rest of the world existed. I don't want to ruin you, she said, barely above a whisper. Too late, I murmured. Her hand froze mid-motion. Then she looked back, eyes wet but steady. Then we both need to decide, she said, voice trembling now. Whether this ends tonight, or nothing will ever end it. The thunder rolled again outside, low and unending. The kind that sounds like it's coming from inside the walls. She didn't move, neither did I. And in that silence, something irreversible began. The storm hadn't stopped. It only got louder. Sheets of rain against the glass, the sound of wind slipping through the cracks. The world outside unraveling while we stood still. Elaine sat on the couch, her hands clenched in her lap. I stood near the door, trying to find the right words and failing every time. Everything between us was raw now, peeled open, too honest to hide behind silence anymore. She looked up finally. Say something, she said. I don't know what to say. Then tell me why you're still here. Because leaving felt like cutting off something living. Because I tried and failed to think of her as anything less than the only person who made me feel seen. But all I said was, because I can't not be. Her breath caught. She shook her head slowly, like she wanted to push those words away but couldn't. You're too young to understand what that means. Then teach me. A flash of lightning filled the room, white, blinding. When it faded, she was standing. Close. Too close. Don't, she whispered. But she didn't move back. I'm not trying to ruin anything, I said. You already have, she breathed. You've ruined the quiet I built. She reached for the back of the couch, but her hand missed and found my sleeve instead. Neither of us moved. Her fingers tightened, holding on like it was the only steady thing left. You could still walk away, she said. I don't want to. She searched my face, eyes darting from my mouth to my eyes and back again, as if she was trying to memorize me before doing the wrong thing. Her voice trembled when she spoke next. You have no idea how many times I've told myself this ends here. And every time, I end up standing exactly where you are. I took her hand, slow, cautious. She didn't pull away. The sound of rain filled the silence that followed, steady and relentless. Her thumb brushed against mine, a small movement that said more than words could. Then she leaned forward, barely an inch, just enough that her breath met mine. This is the part where we stop, she said. I know, but neither of us did. Her forehead rested against mine. No kiss, no rush, just closeness that ached. The kind that wasn't about wanting but about knowing. Whatever happens after this, she whispered, don't hate me for it. I couldn't. Her hand moved up to my face, tracing the edge of my jaw like she was memorizing it. Then don't forget me either. I closed my eyes. I couldn't do that either. We stood there, rain still pounding, her fingers tangled in mine, our breaths matching without meaning to. And in that moment, nothing was hidden anymore. No pretending, no fear, just the quiet truth neither of us could take back. The storm broke by morning. The air was washed clean, the streets glistening with leftover puddles. Elaine's house felt different, lighter, quieter, like it had exhaled after holding its breath all night. She was sitting by the window when I woke on the couch, her knees tucked under a blanket, hair still damp from sleep. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if I was real. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey." Her voice was tired, but not sad. Neither of us mentioned what had almost happened. We didn't need to. It hung between us, a truth neither of us was running from anymore. I sat up, stretching. "You didn't wake me. You looked like you needed the rest," she said. "Besides, it's been a long night." There was a long pause. Not awkward, just full. She looked down at her hands. "Do you regret staying?" I shook my head. "Do you?" Her eyes lifted. "No," the word came out quiet but steady. It landed somewhere deep in the room, and neither of us moved for a while after that. I got up, walked to the window beside her. Outside, the world was gray but calm. Soft light spilling across the porch, drops still clinging to the railing. I stood close enough that our shoulders touched. "You know this isn't simple," she said. "I don't need it to be." She smiled faintly, shaking her head. "You should. Life's easier when things fit neatly." I turned to her. "Maybe I don't want easy." Her laugh was small, real this time. "You sound like someone who hasn't been tired yet." "Then let me be the one who isn't." She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes tracing mine like she was deciding something that couldn't be undone. Then she reached out, slow, careful, and rested her hand against my chest. Her palm stayed there, feeling the rhythm under my ribs. "You make me feel young," she said quietly. "Not because you are, but because I stopped letting myself for too long." I took her hand in mine. "You don't have to stop anymore." She leaned her head against my shoulder then, and the rest of the world faded into the sound of rainwater dripping from the eaves. No rush, no fear, just stillness. For a while we stayed like that, her hand in mine, my breath steady against her hair. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "So what happens now?" "Whatever we choose," I said. "Together." She smiled into my shirt, the kind of smile that feels like a quiet promise. And in that soft, gray morning light, after the storm, after all the silence and waiting, it felt like the world had finally stopped spinning long enough for both of us to catch up. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?